right, so today we're going to do a deep dive into something I think everyone's interested in,
For sure.
building wealth.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we've got some sources here that we're going to be pulling from today to kind of really get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, a lot of people, when they think about building wealth, they think like, oh, I need to get rich quick, or I need to find the next hot stock tip, or I need to buy a bunch of Bitcoin or something like that.
Yeah.
But the reality is that building wealth is a long game, and it's about making smart choices consistently over time.
Absolutely. And these sources that we're going to dig into today really highlight, I think the biggest one is this idea of paying yourself first. Have you heard that before?
Yeah, paying yourself first is like one of the fundamental principles of personal finance. And it's something that a lot of people talk about, but I don't think a lot of people actually understand like what it really means.
Yeah. And the sources have a really good analogy that they use. I think you'll appreciate it. They talk about like someone working at a trinket shop, basically, right? Like they're working and they're getting paid a fraction of the value that they're creating.
Right.
And they're just taking those earnings and spending it all right back at the same trinket shop.
Yeah, those you go to work, you make some money, and then you just spend it all on stuff that you don't really need, and you end up right back where you started.
Exactly. And that's where this idea of paying yourself first comes in. It's about saying, hey, before I do anything else with this money, I'm going to set aside a portion of it for myself.
Right, and it's not even about like depriving yourself or anything like that. It's just about making sure that you're prioritizing your future self just as much as you're prioritizing your present self.
So like, what does that look like in practice?
Well, it could be as simple as setting up an automatic transfer from your checking account to your savings account every time you get paid. Or it could be like putting a certain percentage of every paycheck into a retirement account.
So it's really about like making it automatic, making it part of your system.
Exactly, because if you try to do it manually, if you're like, oh, I'll just save whatever's left over at the end of the month, you're probably not going to save anything.
That's so true.
Yeah, because there's always something else to spend it on.
Always something. Right?
Yeah, there's always something that comes up. And so the best way to make sure that you're actually paying yourself first is to automate it.
Okay, so we automate it, we're saving. But is that enough?
Yeah.
Like, isn't that money just sitting there doing nothing in a savings account?
Well, it's better than nothing, right? At least it's not being spent.
Right.
But the problem is that inflation is eating away at the value of your savings over time.
Oh yeah, inflation.
So what you could buy with $100 today, you'll need more than $100 to buy in the future.
So we're not really getting ahead, are we?
Right, you're not really getting ahead. You're just kind of staying even. And the other thing is that when your money is just sitting in a savings account, you're essentially lending it to the bank.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so the bank takes your money and they invest it and they make money off of it and they pay you a tiny little interest rate in return.
So they're using our money to make money, but we're not really seeing much of a return.
Right, exactly. And that's why investing is so important, because it allows you to put your money to work for you instead of just letting it sit there and lose value.
So investing. So where do we even begin?
Well, there are a lot of different ways to invest, but I think the most important thing is to start with the basics.
Okay.
Like, understanding what stocks are, what bonds are, what mutual funds are.
Right, like it can feel overwhelming just thinking about those terms.
Yeah, and so I think a lot of people, they get intimidated by investing because they feel like they need to be an expert, but you don't.
You don't have to be a Wall Street guy.
Yeah, you don't have to be a Wall Street guy. You just need to have a basic understanding of the different types of investments and how they work, and then you can start investing in a way that aligns with your goals and your risk tolerance.
So what are some of the things that we should be thinking about when we're choosing investments?
Well, diversification is really important.
What does that mean?
It means not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Oh, okay.
So instead of investing all your money in one stock or one type of investment, you want to spread it out across different asset classes like stocks and bonds and real estate.
So like maybe a little bit in real estate, a little bit in the stock market, and then some bonds or something.
Yeah, exactly. And that way, if one asset class goes down, the others can help to offset your losses.
Okay, so spreading it out, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then the other thing to think about is your time horizon.
What does that mean?
So how long are you planning to invest for? If you're investing for retirement, you can afford to take on more risk because you have more time to recover from any losses.
Okay, so longer time horizon, more risk we can take.
Right, but if you're investing for a shorter term goal, like a down payment on a house, you'll want to be more conservative with your investments. You don't want to lose money in the short term.
So it's really tailored to your individual goals.
Exactly.
So we've talked about investing in the stock market, in real estate. But the sources also talk about this idea of investing in yourself.
Yeah, investing in yourself is one of the best investments you can make.
No way.
Because it increases your earning potential.
Okay.
So if you invest in your education, if you learn new skills, you're more likely to get a higher paying job or get a promotion.
So instead of thinking of it like, oh, I'm spending money to take this course, it's like I'm investing in myself so I can earn more in the future.
Right, exactly. And it doesn't even have to be formal education. It could be like taking an online course or reading books or attending workshops or conferences.
So it's anything that helps you learn and grow.
Exactly. And it could even be something as simple as like improving your communication skills or your time management skills.
I like that because those are things that we can all work on. And those are things that can really benefit us in all areas of our lives, not just financially.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people, they underestimate the value of investing in themselves.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to kind of get caught up in those more traditional investments, but it's like if we don't invest in ourselves, then how are we going to be able to actually take advantage of those other opportunities?
Exactly.
So it seems like paying yourself first, it's a much bigger concept than just setting aside some money each month. It's really about prioritizing our future selves and setting ourselves up for success, both financially and personally.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. It's about making choices today that will benefit you in the long run.
This has already given me a lot to think about, but before we get too carried away, let's take a little break and we'll come back and dive even deeper into some of these ideas.
Sounds good.
If you like the podcast, make sure you subscribe for the next session.
Okay, so we're back. And before the break, we were starting to really get into this idea of investing in yourself.
Yeah, one of my favorite topics.
Yeah, and I think it's something that like we kind of maybe take for granted sometimes. It's like we think about it's always like stocks, bonds,
Yeah.
real estate, those kinds of things.
Right, it's always the external stuff, yeah.
But how do we actually invest in ourselves in a way that's going to, pay off down the road?
Well, I think one of the best ways to invest in yourself is to develop skills that are in high demand.
Like what?
Well, the sources we have today, they actually specifically call out video editing skills.
Video editing, really?
Yeah, think about it. Everybody's on TikTok and YouTube these days.
Yeah, that's true.
And businesses, they need people who can create engaging video content.
So it's like instead of just watching all these videos, we could actually be learning how to make them and potentially even like making money from it.
Exactly. And the great thing about video editing is that it's a skill that you can learn relatively easily, and there are tons of free resources available online.
That's awesome. So like, what if you're not really into video editing? What are some other ways that people can invest in themselves?
Well, it really depends on your interests and your goals.
Okay.
Like maybe you're really into writing, you could take a writing course or join a writer's group.
Okay.
Or maybe you're interested in learning a new language or learning how to cut.
Yeah, those are all good ones.
The key is to find something that you're passionate about and that you think will be valuable in the future.
Yeah, because if you're not passionate about it, you're probably not going to stick with it.
Right, exactly.
So passion and then skills that are in demand.
Exactly.
And the sources also talk about this idea of like investing in your health.
Yes, absolutely. Your health is your wealth, as they say.
Right.
If you're not healthy, you can't work, you can't earn money, you can't enjoy life.
Yeah, it's like you're not really able to do anything if you're not taking care of yourself.
Right, and so investing in your health could mean eating healthy, exercising, getting enough sleep, managing stress.
It's like a holistic approach.
Exactly.
So we've talked about investing in our skills, investing in our health, but what about like investing in our relationships?
Oh, that's a great point. Relationships are so important for our well-being.
Yeah, they are.
And strong relationships can actually lead to greater financial success.
Really? How so?
Well, for one thing, having a strong support system can help you through tough times, like if you lose your job or you have a financial setback.
Okay, that makes sense.
And also strong relationships can open up new opportunities for you, like, maybe your friend knows about a job opening or your family member can invest in your business.
Yeah, it's like your network can really help you out.
Exactly.
So how do we actively invest in our relationships?
Well, it's about making time for the people who are important to you. It's about being present with them, listening to them, supporting them.
So it's not just like buying them gifts or taking them out to dinner. It's about actually spending quality time with them.
Right, exactly. It's about making an effort to connect with them on a deeper level.
I like that because that's something that we can all do regardless of our financial situation.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about investing in our skills, investing in our health, investing in our relationships, but ultimately all of these things are about investing in ourselves.
Yes, Exactly. And when you invest in yourself, you're not just investing in your present self, you're investing in your future self.
And that future self is going to thank you.
I think so too.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here. And I think the main takeaway is that investing in yourself is one of the best things you can do for your overall well-being, both financially and personally. But before we get too deep into all that, let's take another quick break and we'll come back and wrap things up.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we are back, and we've been talking a lot about this whole idea of paying yourself first.
Yeah.
But it seems like there's more to it than just like, setting aside some money each month.
Absolutely. It's really a mindset shift.
Okay, so like, how do we actually make that shift? How do we start thinking about money in a different way?
Well, I think one of the first steps is to really understand where your money is going. Like, track your spending for a month.
Oh, I hate doing that.
I know nobody likes to do it, but it's so eye-opening because you might be surprised at how much you're spending on things that you don't really need.
Yeah, like that daily latte.
Exactly, or those subscription services that you never use.
Yeah.
And so once you have a better understanding of where your money's going, then you can start to make some changes.
Okay, so like maybe cut back on some of those unnecessary expenses?
Yeah, and then redirect that money towards your savings or your investments.
Okay, so it's not just about like earning more money. It's about being more mindful of how we're spending the money that we already have.
Right, exactly. And then the other thing is to start thinking about money as a tool.
Okay.
Like a tool to build the life that you want.
Instead of like something that we're always chasing after.
Right, instead of being afraid of it or feeling stressed out about it.
Yeah, I like that.
And then once you start thinking about money as a tool, then you can start to use it to achieve your goals.
So it's about like setting financial goals.
Yeah, like what do you want to achieve with your money? Do you want to buy a house? Do you want to retire early? Do you want to travel the world?
Okay, so once you have those goals in mind, then you can start to make a plan to actually achieve them.
Exactly. And the sources we have today, they actually talk about the importance of having a written financial plan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it helps you to stay focused and motivated.
So it's like writing down your goals and then like the steps that you need to take to actually get there.
Right, exactly. And then you can track your progress along the way and make adjustments as needed.
Yeah, I like that. Because if you don't have a plan, it's easy to just kind of like drift along.
Right, exactly.
And then before you know it, 5-10 years have passed and you haven't really made any progress towards your goals.
Exactly. And then you're like, oh, where did all the time go?
I know. And so I think having that plan and like revisiting it regularly, that can really make a big difference.
Absolutely.
And it's something that we can all do.
Yeah, for sure.
So, okay, we've talked about tracking our spending. We talked about thinking about money as a tool. We talked about setting financial goals and creating a plan. But is there anything else, like any other tips or advice that you would give to people who are just starting out on their journey to building wealth?
Well, I think one of the most important things is to be patient.
Okay.
Building wealth takes time.
Yeah, it's not going to happen overnight.
Right, exactly. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, I like that.
And so don't get discouraged if you don't see results immediately.
It's about consistency, right?
Exactly. It's about making those small changes consistently over time.
And I think that's one of the things that the sources really emphasize is that it's not about like making these huge drastic changes.
Yeah.
It's about just like taking those small steps and then, like you said, being patient and letting those small steps compound over time.
Right, exactly. Like even if you can only save $5 a week.
It's something.
It's something, and it's more than you were saving before.
Yeah.
And so just keep at it, and eventually you'll reach your goals.
I think that's really encouraging because sometimes it can feel so overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I need to save so much money.
Yeah.
How am I ever going to do this?
Right.
But if we just take it one step at a time, it feels a lot more manageable.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a great place to leave it today. This has been such an insightful deep dive.
Yeah.
We've learned so much about paying yourself first and all the different ways that we can invest in ourselves and build a brighter future. And, if there's one thing that I'm taking away from this, it's that it's never too early to start.
Absolutely.
And it's never too late to make a change.
Yeah, for sure.
So thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope that you'll keep exploring these concepts.
If you like the
and keep paying
podcast,
yourself
make
first.
sure you subscribe for the
having me.
next
Absolutely.
session.
And we'll see you next time.